On June 26, 2016, Gabriel Jefferson and Olivia Jones were both looking for a rousing. Up until that rush, that adrenaline wore off. Unfortunately, after that thrill came to an end, regret started to register. The evidence will show that Olivia Jones is trying to erase her regret and shame by placing them on Mr. Jefferson. This case is not rape, it's regret. And the criminal justice system shouldn't be used to remove regret. On June 26, 2016, two consenting adults, met in a place with minimal light, lots of alcohol, and loud music, both looking to have a great time. In the wee hours of the morning, Gabriel, who I'm going to refer to as Gabe, saw Miss Olivia Jones, and she saw him too. The evidence will show that Gabe approached Miss Jones and decided to shoot a shot, meaning he decided to spark up conversation with a young lady he thought to be attractive. You'll hear how Miss Olivia Jones, who at the time was a Jehovah's Witness with a boyfriend, welcomed the attention from Gabe. The two went to the bar and they ordered another round of drinks. While waiting for those drinks, they continued to entertain one another, very close and very intimate. You hear how the nightclub was closing around 2, 3 or so in the morning, but the two were still enjoying each other's company, so much so that they wanted to keep the party going. The evidence will show that Miss Jones abandoned her friend, the friend she went to the club with, and willingly left with Gabe in his vehicle. The two were headed to another place with minimal light, lots of alcohol, and loud music, seeking to continue the good time they were having with each other. Now, if you all don't mind, and with your consent, I'm going to get raw and nasty, just as Gabe and Olivia did. In the car, Miss Jones is talking about how she wanted him to be an aggressive nigga. The evidence will show that the only article of clothing that were collected from Miss Jones that night was a bra and a dress. That's it. You'll hear how Gabe pulled the car over, stopping in a dark, secluded location, meant only for the two of them to know and see what would happen next. Gabe got out of his vehicle, and Miss Jones did too. The state will want you to believe that it was at that point that Gabe pushed Miss Jones's head down in the passenger seat, choked her with both hands from behind, while pointing a gun at her head and penetrated her vagina. The evidence will show, and common sense will tell you that that's not possible. However, what makes more sense, based on the evidence that will be presented to you, is that Miss Jones was face down in the passenger side with her butt tooted in the air, and Mr. Gabe Jefferson was stroking her from behind. Consensual sex absolutely happened, and it was rough, and it was nasty. You will hear from witnesses tendered as experts that Gabe's DNA was located in Miss Jones's vagina and her rectum. After Gabe and Miss Jones had raw, consensual, nasty, aggressive sex, the two got back in the vehicle. You'll learn that finding something to eat became the two's next order of business. Miss Jones decided that the Waffle House close to her house would do. You'll hear how at some point on this quest to food, Miss Jones began to abruptly and secretly audio record Gabe. You'll have the opportunity to hear 5 separate audio recordings, all recorded on Ms. Jones's cell phone, capturing the two's interaction following their consensual sex, them riding to get food, them dining in at Waffle House, and then Gabe dropping Miss Jones off at her apartment complex. Pay attention to when those audio recordings start and stop and then restart again, as opposed to one continuous recording. What's missing? Who knows? Within the audio recordings, you'll merely hear excerpts of 2 people who did something together, discuss and relive what they've just done. And based on the starting point of Ms. Jones's recording, the evidence is going to allow you to presume that Ms. Jones tells Gabe, you don't fuck with me. Boom, regret started to kick in. Throughout the recordings, you'll hear her tell Gabe she has a boyfriend. Regret. You'll hear Ms. Jones tell Gabe she grew up a Jehovah's Witness and wanted to be baptized as such. Regret. Also within those audio recordings, you'll hear Ms. Jones ask Gabe a series of questions and make numerous statements attempting to bait him into sharing in her regret. You'll hear Ms. Jones mention Gabe pointing a gun at her head, and then in response, you'll hear Gabe deny it and say that she gave it to him voluntarily without a gun being used. Regret. And then after all the finger pointing and before the nightcap ends, you will hear Gabe start to exhibit some regret of his own, stating that he fucked up and he lost control in giving her the aggressiveness she asked for. But while listening to those audio recordings, there are some things that you will never hear. You will never hear it sound like or appear that one of them had power and control and the other one did not. The evidence you all won't hear throughout the trial is that while consistently on her phone, Ms. Jones sent an SOS text message to any one of her phone's contacts, to include Patrice Graper, the friend she originally went to the club with. You'll hear Ms. Jones and Gabe interact with several individuals after the consensual sex, but you'll never hear her seek help from any one of them. You'll hear Ms. Jones sees a police officer, but didn't attempt to get his or her attention. She carries on a conversation with Allison, a Waffle House worker. Her and Gabe speak to the person who served them their food at Waffle House. And then there's the man who they asked about a lighter so that Ms. Jones could light whatever it was that she wanted to smoke in Gabe's car. The evidence will even show that Gabe offered to go into the Waffle House alone, leaving Ms. Jones by herself to scream, to call for help, or to just get away. But no, she insisted on going in the restaurant with him. You will hear that after Ms. Jones enjoyed most of her 2 grilled chicken breasts with 4 eggs, scrambled with cheese, and grits meal from Waffle House. She took leftovers in a to-go box, by the way. But after she ate that, she willingly got back in the vehicle with Gabe, giving him turn-by-turn directions to the very place that she lived. Within the audio recordings, you won't hear any evidence that Ms. Jones ever needed to run, that she ever needed help, or that she ever tried to stop interacting with Gabe on the early morning of June 26, 2016. So how does 2 adults who leave a club having consensual, rough, aggressive sex, fulfilling both of their sexual desires, turn into rape, aggravated assault, kidnapping, and false imprisonment? It doesn't. Ladies and gentlemen, I am begging you to listen to the evidence as it is presented to you from the witness stand. Pay attention to the testimony as well as the exhibits that you will see and hear.